Hello, welcome to our live stream of Worcester Treasures talk, which coincides with Love Worcester. We'll be starting in about a minute. Just started a few seconds early to allow people the opportunity to, if they're just a few seconds behind, to catch up. Over the next couple of months, we are planning to do some more lunchtime talks, which will last about 25 minutes in order to allow you to have a quick break in the day, have a watch for about 25 minutes. I might stay on for a few more minutes if people have got questions, and then finish. If you want to, you can catch up, or if you can't see it, then catch up afterwards on YouTube. Otherwise, get back to whatever you're doing. And so starting with Worcester Treasures, because it's part of the Love Worcester Festival. Now, my name's Paul Hudson. I'm the Learning and Outreach Manager for Worcestershire Archive and Archaeology Service. It may be that I've seen you at one of our other events, our various workshops and talks that we have. And as I said, today it's the talk of Worcester Treasures. Now, a number of years ago, we did a series which is it's finding the right bit. Treasures from Worcestershire's past. We thought with our blog that is what we'd have a go at doing a series about Worcester Treasures. This was soon after we'd moved into the Hive, and we thought that would be a good way of obviously introducing and coming together with the service, Worcestershire's Treasures, and we decided that Worcestershire Treasures would open it up. It's defined in all sorts of ways, and members of staff over a year contributed, so we have over 50 that were suggested from right across the service. As I said, Treasures was used in quite a wide range, so some of them, I think one or two might have gold and silver, but most of them don't, and it's about the content, and some of them it might be things we actually have, other ones it's information, all things that, when we said, what do you think of treasure, what came to mind? As I said, we are Worcestershire Archive and Archaeology Service. We came together about 8 years ago, bringing together the archives, the county archives, including the National Record Office, 12 miles of shelves of documents all about the county, as well as our local studies library. And with the archaeology side of our service, we have the field section. Those are the people who go out and dig. That's what most people think of about archaeology. They're out there at the moment working on projects, but also there's the curatorial advisors working, planning and countryside advisors, advising people about the historic environment and helping people with that. And the historic environment record, our database, we've actually got 45,000 entries there. It's actually about 80,000. It's gone up a huge amount even just in the last couple of years because there's so many projects that we're working on that it's come up with. And so, and then bringing those together, the Learning and Outreach Service across. So members of staff from right across here, and also members of staff, and customers contributed towards this, and they suggested various things that they thought were treasures. And so we put these up, and so we've given a talk called Worcestershire's Treasures, and today, as it's Love Worcester Week, we've concentrated on some that are just on, it's purely down to Worcester itself, and future weeks we will be having a look at various other ones that are far wider. Apologies, my notes had gone blank. So we're starting off with what was number one when we started off in 2013, and here we have, and it's a picture of Netherton House. Now, this is important for a number of reasons. One is that Netherton House is was a house that stood just by near where the hive is. So it's connected to our history because it's connected to the site that we were on. And before moving into the hive, we did a project as part of the Worcester Archive Source project where we were looking at these, where we were seeing what we could find about the site, what we could find out about that particular things from the archives, from the archaeology that had taken place. And on the 1741 map, we have Netherton House is shown, and that is just to the east of it. So it's just where Magdala Court would be. And there was investigated, and it was a private house for a number of years. It was passed on, interestingly enough, to a number of to some sisters, who, as part of the will, it was stated that it was purely to be theirs. It was a kind of prenuptial agreement, and it couldn't be owned by the husbands. It was later on a school, and I think that is when this picture is of, and I think those are some of the young gentlemen, as they were entitled, lazing about. But we didn't have this when we were first studying it, and people were looking about it on this map. Oh, what is Netherton House? What was it like? What did it look like? And we looked and we couldn't find any pictures. And that is the same for quite a few occasions. We can't actually find a picture of what we are wanting. Therefore, we were trying to work out what else we could find out. And then somebody, I think it was on eBay, came across it. They'd been just searching the internet, and they were taken aback when it actually came up. So they came back to us, and with the help of the Friends of Worcestershire Archives, they purchased it. We don't normally purchase archives. That is quite rare. But this was one of these rare opportunities where we could gather information. So we did it and added it to the archives, and so it was nominated as a treasure because it was part of the history of the site that we were investigating with the hive, what was on there before. Which was fantastic, and we really enjoyed adding that to it. It was really quite unexpected that we found this picture and able to add it into the collections. Now, as I mentioned, today certainly there is no silver or gold. Another week I will say a little bit of gold comes into it, but not much. However, archaeologists, for them, other stuff is just as exciting, and exotic stuff from Cespit was what one of our environmental archaeologists suggested, because that was what that really got their teeth into a number of years ago. It's from a site just to the south of the hive. I've kind of highlighted the All Saints Parish, and then it's just to the kind of south of that. Where the bus station, the buses come out and turn right and up the butt, straight ahead on Newport Street was a site that before those new flats were created, our archaeologists, as part of the planning process, carried out an excavation. And in amongst there, they excavated some cesspits. Now, looking back at the old maps and other sources, there was all sorts of things there. And unlike lots of other modern housing developments, here there's the poor and the rich were kind of cheek by jowl, very close together. There were stables, workhouses, malt houses, domestic kitchens, a hemp house. There's cobblers, brewers, clothiers. All sorts of people were there, and we're excavating those. It has now been written up into a report that's been on sale. And in amongst there was cesspits. People didn't have their own toilets, of course, there. And this is an archaeologist's gold mine of working out what they can find, what people are eating in the feces remains that they can uncover. And there is a picture on the screen of an archaeologist excavating one of those cesspits. They were normally pretty well created, because people didn't want that seeping out if they could help it. And in amongst there, you have, as I said, food waste, kitchen waste, broken pottery, things that get thrown away, pests and parasites. And 2 cesspits were excavated. And Some of the things that it's not uncommon to find are fruit seeds, pips and studs. These are things that pass through the body and into the food waste. And under the microscope, we can find what people were eating. So, for instance, these are some of the things that were found and more unusual. And some of the things that were found would be fairly common. I suppose sort of cherry stones and things and other things that you naturally think of. And we'll probably talk about the Tudor period here of the cesspits of when they were in use and what we were excavating. But in amongst all that, our environmental archaeologist was fascinated to find these particular seeds. And because these are part of grains of paradise. And also black pepper as well, which are a bit more rare and exotic, and they would have come probably from Africa, brought up the cargo boat up the River Severn, and it is somebody who would have been fairly rich, and they probably would have traded them, possibly part of the slave trade. So it's one of the things that make it a little bit uncomfortable that they'd be as part of that trade. These things would come, these exotic fruits, and you can imagine somebody with who has a little bit of money to spare, and thinking, right, I'm inviting people around for dinner. What can I have? And they'd be looking for slightly exotic, slightly unusual, maybe similar to today. What can I show off? And although things like black pepper and things are known as, in early medieval, around 13th century. It's not necessarily that they're going to be all over the country, and this is quite rare to find things like this in the 16th century in Worcester. And so it's the wealthy who are going to have been found that had the money to be able to pay for that. There would also be a lot of humble abodes in Newport Street, but certainly there would be some richer people who, as the boats come up the street, they would be the salespeople were thinking, oh, maybe we can say, oh, this is very unusual. You can be the first person to have one of these. So sometimes some of these findings, then looking in the record, these ones are probably the earliest we've found in Worcester and Worcestershire, instead of these grains of paradise. Just giving you an insight into the development of foodstuffs and the fact that food wasn't always bland. If you had the money, you could get more unusual and more uncommon items that you can show off to your neighbours. Go back to the archives. This is a seating plan on the right for St Helen's Church. St Helen's on the High Street. This is one of the documents that almost we came across. I wouldn't quite say by accident, we knew we had it, but with 12 miles of shelving, you don't always know exactly what you've got until you kind of go through books and things. If somebody was looking through these, having a look at it, a member of staff went over and got quite excited. So it's a seating plan of St Helens, 1636, which is quite early. A lot of the seating plans and the seating arrangements in churches today are often Victorian, because that's when a lot of churches were refurbished and people would add in new pews to replace older ones. And sometimes we get churches coming in, people from churches coming in asking us about seating plans as part of redevelopments and things, seeing what it was like. And it's very, very rare, so we're quite excited to find this because very, very few survive, showing how all the seats and pews were laid out. Now, if you've gone back about 100 years or so, you might not have had many at all, because you didn't always have seats in churches, apart from at the edges if you couldn't stand very well. Hence the phrase "the weak go to the wall." But as you started getting sermons and things getting longer, you started to have seats. Many people would rent these, and that would be your family's one. Instead of paying, giving money in the collection, you would rent a pew. And we know certainly with St Helens there was one or two disputes when people would buy a house close to the church, and they would claim that as part of buying the house, that entitled them to a pew within the church, and the church would say, no, that's all separate. You need to do it. But whoever had sold the house had managed to convince the person, oh, this comes along free with it. As I said, within parish records, there's lots of things where you're getting all of them. There are prolo records, baptisms, marriages, burials, various minutes. But then there's all sorts of things that it's just accidental have these survived or not. And I said these St Helens seating plans are a very, very rare example of a survival. The picture on the left is from the Burney watercolours from the late 18th century. St Helens during its life, and it's possibly the oldest church in Worcester. Nothing of the original one, Anglo-Saxon one, survives, but in terms of the church being on the site, and it's been refurbished numerous times, including in Victorians. But at one stage, it was also used as a branch of the record office, so it was our home, and now it's back being a church again. Another treasure that was suggested by one of our archaeologists was this tile. It's taken from the kilns that were excavated in the St Martin's Quarter, which is where Asda is today. That was opened about 10, 12 years ago now. And in that area, there was quite a few kilns. Now, lots of places you'd have itinerant tile makers, but Worcester was large enough that you could have people possibly permanently there. And on there, I think there were 209 or so floor tiles were found there. And Laura, one of our finds archaeologists, who's an expert in finds, that's one of her in floor tiles, that's one of her passions. She nominated this one, and she went through all of them, trying to spot different patterns. Some of them you can spot in places like Worcester Cathedral. The kiln that we found dates to the 14th century, because that's where they can identify some of the other tiles that find there with where they were found in places like the cathedral. Most of them, it's heraldic designs. However, as you can probably see on this one, you have the number 3. And so that it's quite unusual. You don't get many of those. And Laura selected this one, because instead of the heraldic one, sometimes we have shared those with lions and dragons or the coat of arms of a local family. Here we have one with a number. What has survived is a little bit of random assortment. So are there the ones with 1, 2, 4, 5, 6? Is number 3 for a certain reason? It is very rare in the 13th, 14th century, so it stands out. So Laura selected this one, and it is almost like an example of what you get within the tiles that you can find in Worcester, and that industry that was here supplying all different churches and the different large houses that would have bought them from there. One of the other treasures is you have that was suggested by our collections manager Adrian with the Vesta Tilly scrapbooks. Now, Vesta Tilly, if you are local to Worcester, you may well have heard of her. She, born Matilda Powell's, she was one of the music hall stars, and she in the late Victorian times, early 20th century, and worldwide reputation. And about 20 years ago, we were able to acquire her scrapbooks. She was born in Lowesborough in 1864. And she went on to become a worldwide star. But said she's got Worcester roots. There are various buildings now starting to be named after her. And there's also a little statue of her on the bollards in the Corn Market. And in amongst these are the letters that people sent. So here we have a letter from 1919 to her, because she's doing a farewell tour, and somebody, an admirer of her, is asking her whether she can play a particular song when she does her farewell tour at a particular place. She'd retired before World War One, but then she came out of retirement to entertain the troops. So we have letters as well from nursing homes thanking her for coming along and for entertaining the troops who were recovering from their injuries and recuperating. And she toured them around playing songs and doing her act. And so they would write to her thanking her for that, and those are kept within those scrapbooks. Here is a lovely illustrated letter from a military hospital in the Manchester area, thanking her, and the different soldiers have signed it, thanking her for a Christmas present to the hospital of a gramophone record, so a gramophone player and records. So as well as performing there, she would also pay for gramophones and supply records as well to entertain the soldiers when she wasn't there. And all sorts of things were in there. So there's these scrapbooks that she used to collect, all these news cuttings of the different performances that she'd made. And we've had various people from around the world have come to Worcester to have a look at the archives, have a look at these scrapbooks. Because if you're looking at the history of Music Hall, then Vesta Tilly is one of the key people, is one of the key names. And so people have come to have a look at those, what she's kept about her career, an amazing collection. As part of that, we also received some of her costumes, which went to the Worcestershire Museum as well. And they've got those there, and they've put them on display at various times. This picture is from the World War I period. She was used as part of recruitment, particularly at the start of the war, at various different events, encouraging men to sign up. She would be there in a specially designed uniform because she was quite small, and so most of the normal uniforms wouldn't fit, so it was specially done for her. And then later on in the war as well, she would do special shows and things in which she was trying to increase morale and support the war effort. And so there's all sorts of photographs within there. And it's had quite a significant collection for us, for somebody with a worldwide reputation who was born in Worcester. And then I think this is the last one for this quick short lunchtime talk. It is the Ale Taster's Oath. Now, this is part of the Worcester City collection, and as part of a 4-year project, we catalogued the city archives that were passed from the city council, and within here are the oaths sworn by various post holders. So all sorts of people, the water bailiff and all sorts of others, had to swear an oath at the start of start of holding their post. And this happened a number of times, that they would create a book with these ones in. This one is from the 18th century. It's not the oldest, but we included it because it looks a little bit nicer. Somebody's done a little bit of calligraphy at the top. And this one is the Ale Taster's Oath. This was somebody who would be appointed, and they were to go around the pubs testing the beer. And they'd go around all of them checking that it was all to a proper standard and everything was all above board. And you might think, that sounds a good job. I know I went on Radio Hereford and Worcester a few years ago and we were chatting about that, and the presenter said, I'd have loved that job. And it does sound great, except, in the past when we didn't have the knowledge and the preservation so much, it wasn't unusual for beer to go off and to not quite be the right standard. And you'd have to go around testing the beer, making sure it was good quality, early trading standards. And then the ale taster would have to do that. But he would also have to say if it wasn't up to scratch. What happens if that happened? He would not be a very popular person. And you do wonder, would there be various threats and things of, you're not going to say anything against my beer, are you? So first, you might not be tasting beer that's very nice. And also, you might not be very popular if you are having to say that beer is not good enough for human consumption. So they could actually be unpopular, despite the fact that when we say the ale taster was a position in the city, and lots of people think, fantastic. So one of the members of staff who was helping to catalogue the city archives, they were spoilt for choice for all the things they could do, but they loved these books of oaths, the whole thing at the start. I don't think nowadays when we start jobs we have to swear an oath. I think that's quite unusual. He had to do that. A lovely book, and that whole idea of having an ale taster as part of the post within the city council, an official job. Within those, that was the one that really, really stood out. So thank you for logging on. As I said, we just said we'd keep it to about 25 minutes. So if you need to get back to things, you can do. We will be doing other talks, including we'll have more Worcestershire Treasures talks, going just beyond Worcester. There are various ones around the county. As I said, we had over 50 nominated, so we've got plenty to choose from. One that perhaps we could have included, but we didn't at the time, is also from the city archive, and it's one of our charters. James I Charter. It's the 400th anniversary, and we've also put a YouTube film up today all about that particular one, so you can also have a look at our YouTube channel and having a look at that. So thank you very much for joining us. We'll just see if I can have a look at the live chat. I will just pause for a moment. If anybody did have any questions and they want to put it in the live chat, I will try to answer those. Otherwise, as I said, thank you for joining us. We'll let you know when our next one is up and running, probably in a couple of weeks' time. And in the meantime, you can also look on our YouTube channel for our film about the James I Charter, of which the 400th anniversary has started. And we'll be doing various events throughout the city in support of that charter anniversary, which provided Worcester with the mayor for the very first time, and also the county in its own right, so gave Worcester extra rights, and is one step in amongst the development of the governance. So I said, these are all sort of kept or to do with Worcestershire Archive and Archaeology Service. We're based in the Hive. Normally we'd be saying, come along and visit us. Sadly, of course, we're closed at the moment, but please keep an eye on our website and our social media for up-to-date details about when we can reopen and about some of the other stories we're sharing and then some of the other events. And we hope to see you soon, and hopefully we'll see you again when we do our next talk. Thank you very much.